Just go.
Oh, that's a fish. Detroit River. Alright, this is part 2 from my last video. So next what you want to do is just pop them out of your mold. And what I do is I clip this off with wire snips. And I'll show you how I do that right now. Alright, now that you got your mold casted, this is what I've always done. I just use some snips, and that usually pops away pretty easy. And the excess, I just scrape away with the razor knife. And scrape away the flashing. Now this is just to be able to weight your baits. I'm gonna of course sand all this down smooth, but this is just to clean it up a little bit. So you can put that bait together and it still moves freely in the joint. You don't got no flashing in there, it's rubbing together. And it also gives you a good clean start for your sanding. All those eyes cleaned up. Same thing with the back of the bait. Just pop that off and do it again. The way I like to add weights to the bait is I used to use the Bass Pro Shop finesse weights, and then I molded those, and now I can melt down my own lead and pour it in those, and I just use the same silicone that I use for my baits. And I found this to be the most efficient way to do it. And these weights each weighed the diameter of it. I have a drill bit that matches that, and I'll put the size of the weights and the drill bits in right here too. And I just melt it down in a cheap little Amazon lead pot that I got, and then I fashioned a pin in there to where I can just pull that up, and all the clean lead just pours right out the bottom, right into the lead molds. And that lead hardens pretty quick, so probably 20 seconds and you can pull it out of there. It'll be a little hot, and then you can start clipping it. And this is me clipping it. I just use those same wire snips, and then I clip it down to where I think that weight's gonna be. I got it all written out on paper for each bait, what works for me on each particular bait. You just gotta find out what works for you on your bait. Right here you can see that I just got a little gram scale, and I weigh out each one for each particular bait. Here's a good little drawing I have right here that can give you an idea of the ounces and grams that you need for your bait. You can pause that and see. If you got like a 8-inch bait, it'll give you a good start, and then you can work from there. And here you can see it just pops in there pretty easily, and you can still move it around if you need to and take some out. Next up is sink testing your bait. It all depends on what you like, a fast sinking, slow sinking, extra slow. I normally do all my baits, my batch baits, as extra slow. And you just see how it sinks and take it apart, and then I usually like to see each piece. If one sinks faster than the other, you want them really sinking at about the same rate. So I take it apart and test it that way, and you always want to do it with your hooks and split rings on too. And if you want an extra slow sinking bait, you want it to float before you put on clear coat, because that clear coat's going to add about a gram of weight to that bait, and that's enough to make a slow sinking bait, a fast sinking bait once you put that clear coat on. So I like to just leave a little bit of exposed top right there. As you can see, it's just a little bit of back showing on that bait. It's still floating. And you can see I just took my drill and drilled a little bit of lead out to start tweaking that. Most of the time you want to drill the lead out from the middle of the bait, because if you start taking it out from the back end or the nose end, that's what's going to throw off the bait. So that middle piece of lead is a good starting point to start taking lead out from. As you can see, I even sped this up, but it still was about 2 minutes just for one bait. So this is really a tedious part of the lure making process for these resin baits. You just gotta be patient and keep messing with it until you get it right. Alright, now that you got your lead in your baits, you want to fill those holes. And I don't like to use an epoxy on those because it's just too much weight. I like to just do the resin here that I use for the body, and I do 5 grams of the part A and 4.5 of B, and then I'm going to put about 2 grams of micro balloons. That'll keep a nice neutral weight. It won't add any weight, it won't really add any buoyancy either. It'll add a little buoyancy because you are adding volume to the bait, but I would rather add a little bit of buoyancy than weight, because I already got them to where they're going to sink slowly. That's just something you got to play around with. You start to know your bait and how much resin you can add to it, and how much weight you can add to it. But I like to do this too because you can, sand's a little bit easier than resin, or sand's a little bit easier than epoxy. I do all this too right behind a big box fan blowing right out my window. I wear a mask when I'm doing the big batches. With this little bit I should be too, but just for this video right now, don't have one on. About 2 grams right there. Start to notice like little things after doing this for so long. You'll notice like the consistency you want this to be, whether there's too many balloons or too little. You can hurry up and add some while you're going if it looks too thin. When it's a smaller batch of resin too like this, you want to count to about 20. I wouldn't go to 30 like I normally do. It's gonna harden a little bit quicker. And these droppers are great for this. You can really get a good drop in there, good clean drop, and you're pouring it all over the place. Leave a little bit of room because that resin's gonna swell up too as it cures. So I just drop it in there. And I'm gonna go back and add some more as it starts curing, because right now it's really wet. So if I fill that to the top, it's just gonna pour over the sides. So you're gonna want to watch it. You can move it around with your fingers once it starts to cure a little bit, but just wet your finger. I usually just spit a little bit on my hand, put a little bit on my fingertip, and you can work that around almost like a putty. Give it about a minute. Make sure you keep filling that dropper too, because eventually it's not going to want to suck up in that tip. And you can cut these tips too to easily suck that up in there. This isn't going to be a perfect clean fill right now. We're just filling the majority. You get down to this point, you're gonna start having to just work it in there. It's not gonna suck up in there no more. You can see it starting to goop up on you. Just have to work with it. Push it down in there too, because it'll create little air bubbles, and when you go to sand that, then you're going to break through that surface resin and you're going to have to stuck with those little bubbles that we're going to fill those anyway. You're going to get some no matter what, but this helps. Just forcing that down in there. Alright, time to do some sanding. I start with the 80 grit 3M sandpaper. This is a really good stuff. It's only $5 for like a pack of you can get like the mixed pack, or I think they got an 80, a 120, and a 220. So I'm going to start with that 80. And I'm mostly just using the 80 on the rough spots that I just filled. I'm not going to do too much of the whole body, because this stuff really is really tough, and you'll really grind a lot of that body down, so you don't really want to do that and get a bunch of rough cuts in there. So you're really just doing the rough spots right now. Alright, for the little pinholes that you get on your bait, I actually like to just use the steel stick epoxy putty. I put a little water on my hand there. You can use water, spit, just something to moisten it up, and it keeps it from sticking to your fingers so much. And then I just rub that into all the little holes. I don't really like using the Bondo that most people use. It just has a really strong smell. It's kind of messy. I just like using this. It's always worked for me. It hardens up really good, and it's waterproof, and it sands really well too. Alright, before paint, I like to put all the hardware on and go test out the baits. Make sure they're all tuned perfect and swimming how you want them to before you spend all that time on paint. My favorite spray paint that I've found for primer is the Krylon bonding primer. It's really cost efficient. I think it's about $8 a can, and it really works really well too. It dries in about a day. You can put paint on it, and I like to take just a paintbrush, and the first couple coats, actually the first coat I usually do is really thin, let that sit for a second while I'm doing the other ones, and then I go back and put a little bit thicker coat on, and then I brush it with the paintbrush in spots that get like the little pinholes still, if there's any left that are really tiny that you didn't see. Brushing it with that brush will fill those in, and it'll give you a really smooth finish too. I brush it really fast though, because that stuff dries really quick and gets all gummy, so you pretty much want to immediately start brushing that. And it's just something you'll get used to of how you got to do it, and then hit it with a couple more passes of spray paint right after you brush it too, and you'll have a really nice even coat on there. That's pretty much it for this portion of the lure building videos. Next up would be your airbrushing. Thank you guys for watching.